Friends, friends, friends. What if I say that French CS were the most populated scene in CS, and besides that was one of the strongest regions in CS history, at least in early days. Back then they even won 2 majors for France and had many outstanding players like Kenyas, RPK, Shocks and more that claimed to be the best player at that time. Despite that, some of the other outstanding players are Belgium, and it didn't stop them to play for French teams. The greatest example Scream, the inhuman headshot machine, and one of the greatest captain existent. But nowadays they are totally gone. French CS became much emptier that only 2 players are playing on tier 1 scene. How it even happened that there are no other French teams and players in tier 1 scene? This video is about the downfall of French CS, but firstly we need to dive into the history that was decade ago. Like every same people, French players started playing CS from 1.6 version. They showed decent results at big events, but anyway, a lot of time they struggled against Swedish teams and even Polish teams. But if somebody that old and know this team and players from Emulate, and yeah, I don't know them. They were the most successful team in French scene. They did only one big event at that time, and I would say that it's a hella big achievement for the time because this tournament was claimed to be a major of 1.6. About other French teams like sorry, some DG moment. Okay. Full name of this team, Against All Authority, and Team Good Game. Yeah, they competed on the international level, but they often struggle to break into very top ranks consistently. However, there are still notable players like Matt, Sixer and Rigo that claim to be the best players in French scene. But mostly, French scene started to gain their popularity from CS Source times. Frenchmen thought that this game had potential. In Source version, they were winning every tournament, especially French team where games were played such players like NBK, Shocks, Existence, Kenyas, RPK, and other notable players. Regardless of the rising popularity of the game, CS Source was slowly dying because it had its own competitor in 1.6 version. However, this competition ended when CSGO got released. Everybody got interested in CSGO, mostly of the first ever CSGO major, so everybody began to move to the new game, and where games were no exception. Alongside with them were teams like Imaginary with Shock and Extensive with Apex, Happy, and The Real Maniac. But main focus was always on very games, with the key figures like Kenyas, who claims to be the best sniper, and RPK, who was the best player in Source history. However, if there wasn't Swedish team Ninjas in Pyjamas who can restrict 87-0, the Frenchmen would hold a dominance in early CSGO. Afterwards, the best Source player aka RPK announced that he is retiring from CS, and Kenyas won't also last long in the team, and later they will be replaced by Shocks and Scream. With this roster, they had finally defeated NIP and also won big tournament. However, in following events, they didn't won anything significant. Besides that, LDLC entered to CS scene and signed the second best French team Extensive, and also Clan Mystic had future significant figures like Hiroshima and Kelly. Yes, that's right, that's Kelly. So, moving aside other French teams, their games were always on the spotlight in early CSGO's days. However, it was the time to attend their first major, and also beside them Clan Mystic were there. Unfortunately, they didn't make it into playoffs, and there were also one team, Recursive, which did actually make it into playoffs, but unfortunately they lost to Fnatic in quarterfinals. So we are returning back to Very Games. So Very Games were surely the favorites of winning the major, and they made out from the group with 2-1 score, only losing to Complexity in very intense game. In playoffs, they have won against the Danish team where played outstanding players like Sipnix, Device and Dupree, who would be the part of Astralis era in the future. Already in semifinals, NIP were waiting for the Frenchmen. However, Very Games lacked something to defeat NIP, and yet again NIP are still twice above than Very Games, and they have lost the series with 2-1 score. After the major, Very Games were acquired by Titan. However, in next 2 majors, Titan aka X Very Games didn't show any results at following majors and were performing inconsistent, but on other hand, LDLC were playing much more better during those years, and eventually they have switched it up with Titan, who were on the spotlight whole this time, and eventually on February 2014, it led to one of the first French drama between both players like Existence and Shocks. Existence philosophy was more strategic and tactical, while Shox had another thought about that. He wanted to give players more individual freedom, rather sticking to the tactical plan. Yeah, that's how it played before. At the end of the day, Shox left the team and refused to play with Existence. However, back to LDLC, they couldn't win anything significant with this roster, even though they were on the spotlight, and beside that, Clan Mystic were dismounted after the cut of its major in 2014, so major things were surely coming right after these majors. The French Shuffle wasn't coming. Epsilon offered an opportunity to ask Clan Mystic players by curing some of them, but basically reshuffle was among Titan, LDLC, and Team Epsilon. LDLC aimed to build team around Happy, acquiring Shox and Kyoshima from Epsilon, and NBK with Smiths from Titan. Titan in turn signed Kenny S, Apex, Maniac, and Kyoli, who replaced Scream. Left with no option, Scream joined Epsilon. Titan's new roster looks promising on paper, especially with Kenny S at his peak. His aggressive playstyle set him apart from other snipers. However, despite their potential, this slimer only managed to win 2 tournaments during its whole lifespan, but before the winter major, the French scene was about to face its biggest wave of bans. Before the DreamHack Winter 2014 major, one of the loudest bans in CSGO history occurred by Kyoli's ban. He had been a part of LDLC at ESL 1 Cologne in 2014. While it's still unclear if he cheated on LAN, he admitted to using Elix software before joining Titan. Later, RPK Letang will announce that he will return to competitive scene, replacing Kyoli on Titan's roster. Additionally, one of Epsilon players, SF, also received a VAC ban for using Elix software while playing for the team. Due to these bans, both teams were disqualified from the upcoming major. As a result, the newly formed LDLC became the sole team representing France at the event. Despite being the sole French representative at the major, LDLC dominated the group stage, defeating NIP and advancing with 2-0 score into playoffs major. Right after they faced Fnatic, it what became one of the most controversial matches in CS history.
That is definitely not part of the plan here for Fnatic.
Coming out of Squeak door as well. He's here. He sees them down there. Straight headshot. They have no idea. Smith's looking confused and dazed, and it's going to be a follow-up headshot on a Meister. You've got to be kidding me. Takes down Kyoshima as well.
Just what kind of state of mind they're in right now. Really, they don't even know what's happening anymore. So this is it. I mean, Fnatic are just 5 rounds away now from guaranteeing a spot in the semis, and for the first time, Happy ventures out.
Due to Fnatic backup using, the tournament organization decided to replay the overpass map the following day. However, Fnatic forfeited the match after significant community backlash, giving LDLC a clear path to face Na'Vi. LDLC defeated Na'Vi with 2-0 score, advancing to the major's grand final. They long-standing rivals from 2012, NIP, who had always stood in their way of lifting majors trophies, awaited them in the final. LDLC finally accomplished their mission, defeating NIP with 2-1 score. This victory cemented their status as a world best team and made them the first French team to lift a major trophy. Shortly after, the LDLC team was secured by the organization EnvyUs, which would face many challenges in the future. Despite winning the major, tension within Team EnvyUs were escalating, particularly between Shox and Happy over leadership style and team dynamics. Consequently, Shox and Smiths left EnvyUs for Titan, while Kenny S and Apex moved from Titan to EnvyUs, essentially a player swap between the teams. In a shocking turn of events, 4 Epsilon players were banned from match fixing. Just imagine being Epsilon CEO and dealing with 1 cheater and 4 idiots match fixer in single year. It's incredibly unfortunate situation. Scream, the only Epsilon player not implicated in the scandal, was released and joined the international team Penguin, but for whatever reason, later he returned back to Titan. The team failed to secure any significant victories before declaring bankruptcy in 2016. They seem cursed at majors, consistently failing to advance past the group stage. Meanwhile, EnvyUs were doing good. They had incredible skilled players that would go on to achieve major success. The most valuable tournament of the year was CSL 1 Cologne 2015 major. They were unbeatable in the group, and playoff stage, and with this French roster, they were clear favorites, but unfortunately in the grand final they fell to Swiss team Fnatic in their first major with this lineup. However, they didn't part ways and decided to stick together until the next major. At DreamHack Cluj-Napoca 2015 majors, they once again went undefeated in the group stage. In the playoffs, they faced Fnatic, exacting revenge for previous loss. So, they won Fnatic with 2-1 score. This victory made their path clear to the semi-final where they beat G2, and where they head into grand final where they beat Navi with 2-0 score. This marked France's second major title, a historic achievement that French fans could be proud of. After Titan's bankruptcy, G2 acquired Titan's roster. They needed to make changes as lineup was failing at crucial events. They decided to remove Existence in favor of Body, with Shox taking on the in-game leading role for G2. The team then won a tournament where they outclassed Brazilian Luminosity, who were considered the best team in the world at that time. On the other hand, EnvyUs, despite their magnificent run at the major, they were performing poorly. Their results were declining and the team's internal system started to crumble. And they decided, how about to kick someone? It would surely solve the problem. So yeah, and eventually they kick Hiroshima. However, this didn't solve any issues. Replacing him with Devil made no difference and even led to worse consequences, resulting failing next following majors, and later they replaced Devil with Sixer. Even though they won one event with this lineup, it didn't change the overall situation. Both G2 and EnvyUs continued to produce disappointing results in following majors and following up events. After the Elite Major in 2017, it became clear that another French shuffle was coming. The most popular reshuffle formed a super team with Kenny's, NBK, and Apex from EnvyUs, joining Shox and Body in G2. Scream and RPK were no longer part of G2, but they found their way in EnvyUs. Despite winning one Tier 2 LAN event with Happy, Sixer, and with new player XMS, EnvyUs struggled in majority tournaments. They failed many times and had terrible results in almost every tournament. Later, it would lead to the team disbandment in 2019. G2 on the other hand, they had impressive lineup featuring Kenny's and Shox playing together for the first time. This roster quickly claimed 3 trophies, but somehow at PGL Krakow 2017 major, they couldn't even make out from the group. However, in the following Elite Major, they finally reached the playoff stage, where they lost in quarterfinals to the winner of the major, Cloud9. Despite this setback, G2 was considered one of the world's best teams in the world, but again, the French drama wasn't far away. Within G2, NBK and Shox were at odds. When Shox needed time to recover from an injury, they brought in Spanish sniper Mixwell on trial, and of course things didn't work out with him, and when Shox returned, Mixwell was let go, and NBK with Apex were benched, replaced by Existent and Smith, who had been G2's coach for a long time. This roster didn't achieve much success, leading to another change. The new lineup featured the core of Kenny's, Shox, and Body, along with Lucky and Jax from 3D Max. Later, Body also won less long in the team, and Amanek will later take his place. This roster with this core would remain until G2 goes international. Meanwhile, after EnvyUs released their French roster, Vitality picked up Happy and RPK along with G2's benched players NBK and Apex. They also added Zaiwu, the future best player in the world, and the Friends' new hope. Vitality found quick success winning DreamHack Open Atlanta just a month after forming. Despite this, they decided to remove Happy from the active roster, believing he didn't fit the team's style, so Alex replaced him. With this roster, Vitality won 3 tournaments, however they struggled in both majors that year. In one they didn't pass the group stage, while in the other they reached the playoffs but were eliminated in quarterfinals. Nevertheless, this didn't stop Zaiwu from claiming his first ever in his career Ashal TV medal as the world #1 player, surpassing Simple. Damn, he's so geek at chat. G2 finally decided to go international, removing Shox and Lucky from the team while retaining Kenny's, Jax and Amanek. After some time, Nico joined G2 roster replacing Jax. Meanwhile, after leaving G2, Shox found a fresh start with Vitality replacing NBK. NBK had been the in-game leader for Vitality but only for CT side, while Alex was calling for T side. Tension arose between Apex and NBK, which were long-time teammates, resulting in NBK's removal from the active roster, and Alex took full responsibility of IGL. When some Chinese person ate a poor bat, some virus swept across the world, so online era of CS began. During this time, Alex stepped down from Vitality due to burnout and Apex took over as in-game leader. To replace Alex, Vitality brought in Mysuta, and were the first one who experimented with 6-man roster. By the way, the 6th person was Nivera, Scream's brother. This lineup won several tournaments in 2020, meanwhile G2 gradually phased out their French players. Jax, who briefly returned after being benched, was the last French player on G2 before being replaced by Australian player JKS, marking the end of French representation in G2. In Vitality, following Alex's departure, RPK also decided to leave Vitality and retire from the scene, with Kyojin stepping in his replacement. However, it didn't take long for them to change the lineup. They decided to remove French players Kyojin and Shox, leaving only the core of ZywOo, Apex, and Mysuta in the team. It was obvious that they would go international, but the shocking news came soon after. They added Danish players Dupree and Matrice, along with coach Sonny from the legendary Astralis team. However, inconsistent results like failing to qualify for playoffs in many tournaments made them consider changes once again. The market was now wide open due to going international, so they no longer needed to rely solely on French talent. So eventually they removed Mysuta and brought in Spinks from N. They started to win much more tournaments and also led them to even win the last major of CSGO in Paris. So could you count this major as a French third? I guess you can actually. Besides, before Vitality's triumph at the major, Falcons formed a French team with NBK, Mysuta, Hadji, and other Frenchmen. Right before the Paris major, they also added Kenias to their roster, but unfortunately for the French fans, the team performed poorly overall in the season and didn't qualify for the major. So this would be Kenia's last dance, as he would eventually retire from CS.
To make it short, yeah, I'm retiring from competition.
Today, French CS is no longer prominent in tier 1 scene as it was before. Only 2 players are competing at the highest level, Apex and ZywOo, both playing for Vitality, but I wouldn't say that French CS is actually dead. In the lower tiers, 3DMax have full French roster that actually have decent results for the tier 3 team. While they don't have superstar players like ZywOo, they still represent France's last hope alongside Vitality. With the major approaching soon, 3DMax will participate in their RMR, so I wish them the best of luck. And honorable mention, this guy won his first tournament and he's French! And Apex also mentioned about him. So yeah, we are done with France. This scene had rise and a lot of dramas between players. One didn't want to play with him, another didn't want to play with him, and it created a loop of problems which made French CS go in destructive direction. Someone moved to Valorant, or someone still trying to find their way in this game, but most of them are failing, like this team Nakama that lived not that long. However, at least we have ZywOo and Apex, and I'm glad that someone represents the old and new generation for France, even though I'm not from the France. I really had big passion of making this video and I was so invested into it. So yeah, thanks for the watching, leave a like on the video if you watched till the end, comment what you want, I would read it with pleasure, and subscribe to my channel. It would support my channel a lot. So yeah, see ya next time.